The Edit XML tab is the next one I'm going to be showing you. But before I do that, I want to change the selected mod. This time it will be Imperialware, aka France Revenge, one of the bigger ERW mods. Now the theme changed together with the selected mod, which is now Imperialware. Getting to the Edit XML tab. Now as you can see on the left side here, we have all XML files Imperialware could find in the XML directory of your current selected mod was listed here in the XML directory of your current selected mod, which is Imperialware right now. And all files it found in this directory should be mounted here in Imperialware. And if you click one of these files, they will be opened on the right side and can be edited here. Now the formatting is actually pretty poor. It doesn't look that great, unfortunately. That's because the program of Microsoft which is used to handle XML and the importation of the XML file link often has syntax errors and isn't that stable. This is why I thought it makes more sense to mount the files as simple text. You can also search for text inside of files using the search bar at the top left side of this tab. But please notice this text box is case sensitive, which means everything you type needs to be in the right formatting. Now, for example, I'm going to search for the power to weapon in capital letters, because in XML it's also written in capital letters. And this is the first XML file Imperialware found with the requested text, and we scroll a bit down. And here we found the text we just searched, the power to weapons ability. You can also search for names of files, for example the compile files. But this is capital sensitive as well. Here it found and opened that file. Now let's get to the editing of XMLs here. We have the buttons and interface here. It is actually only meant to edit units in this area. And let's edit, for example, the Luke Skywalker file. You can edit the Boolean values using the toggle button here. It appears if you select one of the Boolean XML tags, and you just need to press it in order to toggle its value to the opposite meaning, from yes to no and other way around. And of course we have undo and redo buttons to undo these changes or to reapply them. And for the number type values, please notice how the toggle button change into a slide bar, which allows you comfortable sliding of the values to change them pretty fast. And there's the type of tag which contains simple text. This can be edited below here in the text box. Here you usually change the values, like let's say for example I change the armor to Corvette. And once you select any other tag, your change will be applied. There are also a save button and a save as button as well for saving your files, and a load button which you can use to load any file from the XML directory or to browse on your desktop for files. Actually, you can do the same just by clicking on one of these files here. Now, as I changed in one of the files before, it asked me if I want to apply the changes, which I don't want to right now. There are also a plus and minus button to add or remove XML tags, and there are two other things you need to consider, which are these two settings here, the show file load issues and the show tag load issues. The first one will pop up in a window and tell the user which XML files failed to load. The second one will pop up in a window and tell the user about all tags that failed to load. When you click on one of these XMLs here, or when you open an XML in the Unity UI over in the Manage tab. Here we have all settings for the game collected together. Language, of course, you can switch here the language of the game. The use language checkbox to decide whether the game uses the language, otherwise it would be just Imperialware that has this language. Currently I have no other languages except for English implemented, but that will be added in the future. The evade to next language checkbox, it will do the following. If Imperialware can't find the specified language, it will just evade to the next one it finds in this order, from English to German, French, Spanish, and so on. And here you can specify to which type of language it would evade. You can evade based on the game, or some mods have their own languages, so you can select here to use languages from the mod for evasion, which I recommend to have it as default setting. There's also a setting for Windows mode. This will allow you to start the game in Windows mode, which is also handy sometimes. Here we have the installation paths. They need to be correctly, or Imperialware won't work. And I already explained the save game backup feature and the feature to have our own save game directory for each mod. There is also a setting for the command bar where I can't change the user interface and the command bar from mods because they have all different files, but I can offer a setting for the vanilla UI and the vanilla command bar because that won't change any longer. Here for ERW, we can just reset the old command bar. I will be adding more colors in the future, like the nice red user interface from Republic at War, which the creators kindly allowed me to use it here. Thanks to Anakin Sklavenwalker for that. In Force of Corruption, I already have the blue user interface added. So if you click this button, it will change the user interface color from yellow in most areas to blue. This button to reset it back to yellow. I will also be adding a red one and hopefully more colors for the user interface here. Pretty simple setting actually. Here we have a dashboard selection feature I made, and it works like this. You select a mod from where you want to get the dashboards as source. Currently I have Andromeda and Stargate dashboards, and then here you choose any dashboards which you would like to have implemented. Then you just select the faction. To which table faction do you want to add this dashboard? Let's say, for example, to the Empire faction. And then you just hit apply. This will add a modified dashboard file by me into your game, and it will use it as default dashboard. And these two UI elements here can show you the galactic dashboard and the tactical dashboard. They open them in the element viewer, so you can see the changes you applied. Currently I have the Andromeda dashboard here. The factions have them here as dashboards, and there are only 3 of them usable. Alt 0 for the Rebel faction, Alt 1 for the Empire, and Alt 2 for Underworld. And the funny thing is you can add even more alts, but they won't function because the game only supports these 3 parts, and every additional faction you add to the game would have the one from the Underworld Alt 2. And you can of course always restore to the vanilla dash you had. Here the selected mod is displayed, which means this is the mod we are currently changing dashboard for. Now let's move on to the settings. Imperialware has simple text file settings saved for each user a own settings file, and as I'm currently using the mod account, which is my second account for modding, it will be these settings which I'm going to show, and these settings are all simple text and can easily be changed. The syntax is just like this: the name of the variable, please don't change that, and the value, which can indeed be switched and changed after this sign. So it's pretty simple. Now this all describes the position of the window, the transparency value, the size of the image of the mods here, the color settings of the current theme, the current button selected, the version of Imperialware. This is pretty important. If this version is smaller than the current version in settings of Imperialware, it will cause Imperialware to update from the zip archive. Also, we have a debug mode, but I will be covering all these settings later. Good info to know: you can influence settings of Imperialware actually from the settings file itself if the UI somehow refuses to work correctly. Yeah, I won't save that. Okay, and here are the settings. The first setting is for transparency value. And they will of course save. When you restart, it will stay like this. But I don't like that transparency too much. There are also values for the close of the launch, but this value will cause Imperialware to exit as soon as any of these launch bubble buttons is pressed, which saves some performance. It's also nice to have it active. But if you know you test something and you use the unique creator features of Imperialware, it might be wise to not have this checked, because you maybe need Imperialware again, and it's a good idea to have it running, so you can decide whether you need it checked or not. There's also debug mode. If you have any issues, you might try to activate the debug mode and to see what happens, because when this checkbox is checked, Imperialware will show more messages with info about what it thinks is going wrong. This copy art into editor checkbox is an interesting one. It influences in the mods tab the map editor button. Checkbox is checked. It will copy all art from one mod into the vanilla game in order to open it with the map editor program from Petroglyph. And the bad thing about that is, for bigger games, you would copy old directories of multiple gigabytes, which is not so good for disk space. The benefit of it would be there are less chances that files are named in a bad way if mistakes happen. So this is more secure with that checkbox checked. But I think I recommend to leave it unchecked. While it's checked, it will just move the whole art directory from a mod into the editor in order to open it, so you can work with the map editor. The allow to patch the mod checkbox allows Imperialware to edit XML files in your selected mod and to write its cheating dummies into the code. And it also allows other things to be written into your mod. Well, the point of that checkbox is, if it is unchecked, Imperialware can't do that and will keep the selected mod almost the same way as it was before, which means many cheats can't be applied. But the benefit here would be, you want to play some mods online in multiplayer skirmish, but then it might cause file mismatch issues and disrupt the connection if mods on both sides of you and the players who play with you online have different versions of the mod. And yeah, this setting is just to keep your mods untouched by Imperialware. Here we have the current version of Imperialware. I'm running now at 0.1. This will obviously change by the time. In the XML settings, you have some certain settings for the XML editing functions. For the unit creator functions, which I didn't cover by now that well, there's a checkbox setting. When this is selected, we'll activate a checkmate pattern for some boxes like this one to have it in that color, and that color can be changed if you click it. It will just use the color you have selected down here in the color picker. For example, I'll take blue here, and I want that checkbox to be blue. I just click it now, which applies the greenish blue, and the checkbox will be in blue here. For customization tasks, you always need to consider good contrast in the backhead. It's kind of tricky. This checkbox here, load recent XML, will load the last XML edited by the editor UI here. Each time when Imperialware boots, it will be loaded here when this checkbox is checked. The show file loads and show tag load issues will pop up when some issues appear when you load a file or tags from that file in the XML part of Imperialware. Some people might prefer to have that unchecked because the messages might bug you, but on the other side you have more information while they're checked. The copy full code into XML setting, what it does is it copies all codes from the templates located in the core. It copies all code from these templates into the code you create with Imperialware, instead of having just all your code as variants of these templates, which are injected to your mod. Which means your files would be larger, but you will have access to the full code. But you would be able to see the full code. Now, is it wise to have that checked or unchecked? That depends on you. I prefer it to have this checkbox unchecked, because it allows your code to be sleeker and smaller. You will see at first sight the important tags, and you won't have to mess with many tags. User interface settings. The auto apply unit values checkbox will automatically manage some tags of the unit creator area in Imperialware. Some tags have influence to other tags while this checkbox is enabled. If you disable it, these checkboxes would only influence the tag we currently edit. And the auto apply unit values checkbox connects these tags together, which is a handy feature for some settings. It helps you to create your code even faster. The AutoSet theme of selected mod setting, I already mentioned before. When you set a new mod here, and if that mod has a theme, it will automatically change while this checkbox is checked. You can disable it and the theme will stay as it is. The use theme checkbox color I will be mentioning later when I do the themes. Cycle mod image while scaling is also an interesting one. This is also an invention of mine. You create a new directory into the art directory of your mod in textures. You can create a directory with the name cycles, and there you can place some folders from 1 to 20, counting up. Each directory may have some files, like the load menu background, the background of the in-game menu, or the splash screen in different languages. And what it does is, when you launch the mod using the launching features, this checkbox will switch from the first one to the second one and to the fifth one just randomly, and it will take this out from the textual directory of the mod and replace them from this directory, which means finally the splash screens will change each time you launch the mod. This is the feature. The Show Mod Launch button setting controls the mod launcher button. When it's unchecked, that button will disappear and you will have only these two buttons left. Same for the Show Other Launch button. You might want to have just one button here to launch, as it is here, without the other two buttons. So if you want to get rid of them, there's an easy way you can do that using these checkboxes. Okay, now I'm going to cover the themes part of Imperialware. You can choose your own themes from this list here, and when you choose a theme, it will change the background image and different colors and also the buttons here according to that theme. You see everything has changed in any part of the program. Now, if you open the Imperialware folder in the themes directory, you can see all themes I made by now. In the default theme, I have included button resources. The Photoshop files, if you like to create your own themes for Imperialware, you're free to do so here. This is where I included these resources. Themes contain different things like background image in big, background image in small. They support both JPG and also PNG. The colors text is interesting. This stores all information for the colors in RGB values, from the color 1 to color 7. They can also be influenced above here, one by one. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is the color of the checkmate box. Also, the button color value specifies from where you get the special buttons. The special buttons are also another setting. You can choose which color you want here: red, blue, green, yellow, gold, pink, cyan blue, and a not so pretty silver. And you can combine these colors with any theme. You just have to click it once and they will change the appearance of these switches and also of the segment buttons. And yeah, they can easily be changed, as you see here. And the point is, the information is stored in the text files here, and the button color, for example, for the default theme is from the ICE, which means it takes the buttons from the ICE directory. In other themes, the green matrix one gets its button color from itself, which here, these are the custom buttons of it. Like when I set this theme, for example, as theme right now, it's also one of my darker favorite themes, by the way. It's just in this cool green with launch buttons and all that. And you see you can combine the buttons here in any color with any theme. You can also specify the color values one by one. For example, the main color, want to have it, let's say, in a darker blue. See, this changed into dark blue, and that influences actually the whole application. Here we have many main colors. These all changed to darker blue. The unselected color, we also want it to have in a darker color, because this influences the unchecked checkboxes, and unchecked, of course, would mean rather dark than bright, because we need the brighter one for the selected color, which is obviously meant to be brighter. I just changed it to a nice yellow. You see? There's also the bottom text color, like when I say I'll make it in pink, it looks like that. But some color variations look pretty weird. You have to always consider the contrast of your themes. So some ideas might not be so good. The background color is actually the biggest and most important one. Like, let's say, for example, I want the background in a darker red. All across the application in red, which is also pretty nice. And we have a color feature also for the custom tags. There are tags in the unit creation part, the very last one. These are the custom tags, and you can also influence their color for whatever reason. I forgot why I did this setting. Never mind. And you can also select anything, as I said before, to change the color of the checkmate color, which is influencing the checkmate pattern here. In the XML editor is also the checkmate color, which you can see here. Or you can disable it entirely, but this checkbox is reloaded, and there's no longer any checkbox pattern. Yeah, so now I covered the theme colors. This looks weird what I just did right now, the color combination. Return to a safe theme. There all the colors are adjusted to each other, which looks nicely. So yeah, you can switch them freely, just as you like, or have it auto switching with the selected mod using that checkbox here. And you can also choose to set only the background. Let's say from the metal theme, we'll set just the background image, and we choose from the metal theme its background image, and this changed now, but the theme itself stays as matrix theme. And the cycle background is also a setting you could use. The background image will switch, and each time you restart Imperialware, it will have another background image. This time the matrix theme with the Star Wars background image, which is a random one. You can also tell it to cycle to any other background. This time it was the one of Thrawn's Revenge. Now I covered the themes, the custom colors. By the way, custom colors, the use theme colors checkbox here is influencing the colors. When you change a theme and that checkbox is checked, the colors of Imperialware will change together to the values of that theme. If that checkbox is unchecked, the colors will remain the same. This is what it does. The Imperialware folder path I already explained. You can set it here. Then the application reboots. You can open the folder and have a look inside of it, or reset it. By the way, the folder, I'd like to show you what it has and what all of this stuff does. We have here the add area, all add-ons, and the information is collected here. And if you click any add-on, for example, campaign for the classic Stargate Empire at War, the most important text file is the info one. This one specifies the link, which will be displayed in the apps tag. If you select the add-on here, like Spinner Breakers one, that add-on will search the image in the directory of its mod, which is Stargate Empire at War. You can also place the image into the images folder. Then it would take that images instead. Also in descriptions, we have description texts, and in English is the default one. But if you change the language from English to any other language here, it will influence the whole program, and this is why it would change to German or any other language which is supported here in the description directory. I will also later implement settings for alias names. for the selection of unit cheating, because you could then give them custom names, but that feature is not implemented right now. And now we'll move to the next directory instead of Imperialware, which is the images directory. It just contains some images for language and a black. The MISC directory, all function-specific parts collected, art, the hyperspace models from the Stargate modding, command bars for ARV and FOG for the vanilla games. This will replace the vanilla ones if you want to change the colors according to the settings in the game I showed before here. So these settings here. Imperial will access it from here and replace the ones in your selected mod. And also have here the models for the bots. They are customized, which means they actually use a bigger plane and are a bit different to the original one. And here are the original ones. They are smaller, and when I hit apply, my version, which is bigger and easier to edit, will be placed into the mod, and restore vanilla dash will just restore these ones from here. Then also we have the modding tools from Petroglyph. They're not my tools. Imperial just uses them. The maximum values are the next important setting I'd like to explain. Now, if you open the expander, you will see them. It is based on classes, which means every class has its own set of values here, and it corresponds to the manage tab. The UI requires the maximum values, for example here in the power values, and the user will choose a class for the units he creates, and depending on that class, the unit will have some strength values. And the higher the class, of course, the higher these values will be. And if you change this class, for example, to Capit, the corresponding class will be set here as well. So there's a connection between the unique creator UI and the maximum values here in the settings tab. Now, for example, the hull value, which corresponds to the XML tag tactical health, if we increase this to the maximum, it reaches 4000 for the class capital. Now, for the lower class of Frijet, it will only be 3000, and for corvettes, it's 2000, and so on. So each class has its own set of values. Like I can show it to you here. The fighter are the weakest ones. Then we make it a bit stronger for bombers. Corvettes a bit more. And frigates even more. And capital ones are of course the strongest. And we have all of this also for ground unit classes. Infantry, vehicles, air units, which are pretty strong, heroes, and structures, which also covers the star bases and many of the ground structures. Now, the most important maximum values are those here. The ones at the very bottom aren't that important. I guess they could always stay about 5 and around these values. I choose these values for the maximum tech levels because I didn't want it to limit the user in his choices. But of course, for your own mod, you could actually lower these values as the maximum values are very customizable, and each mod can have its own set of maximum values. It's located in the Imperialware directory. If you open it, you will find the maximum values directory. If you open that, you will have here all, currently there are 10 classes for maximum values, and you can edit them here. Each mod can have its own set of maximum values. Now if you open the Imperialware directory into mods and choose any mod that was already set as selected mod, because when you set it as selected mod, it will get a directory for maximal values. You will find 10 classes, currently there are 10, for maximum value customization. And here you can just open and edit them directly in the text editor, or you can just change the values where mod is selected. You can directly change the values here. Like for example, I want the hull value for the capital ships to be higher, around 5,000. You just type any value here and it will automatically be applied to the maximum values of that mod. In the Manage tab, you could increase the value of that class to 5,000. See? But if you make any mistakes, you can always just hit the Restore Default button and all values will restore to their default value specified by Imperialware. Now this is a good utility to rebalance different mods to one single base by the standards of Imperialware. If you type a higher value than the maximum class would allow, you see it would just pop up and yell that the maximum value is too high and you would need to increase that value or to take a lower value. Like for example this one, which would fit into this class. Okay, the final parts are the info area, just a small text with legal stuff and some of my thanks and historical info about Imperialware, how it was made. Finally, please be careful with the 3 red buttons at the bottom. First of them, Reset All Settings, will do just that. It will delete the settings file in the Imperial directory for the currently active user in Windows. Then Imperialware will restart with entirely versionized settings, and you would need to reapply all of your settings. The Withdraw Files button has the following point. Imperialware writes some files into the directory of your currently selected mod, so a mod content won't be the same as for users who play online on platforms like Tongle, and this might cause file version mismatch and prevent your game from being able to play online. For this, the Withdraw All Files button will just remove some of the files Imperialware installed into your directory, and you can use finally the Uninstall button to get rid of Imperialware. And it will wipe the program directory from your hard disk. It will also remove the registry settings. And yeah, this concludes the overview of the actual UI. In the next tutorial, I will be covering the Unit Creator, which is a larger story.